Welcome back to 26.2 at 50, where I talk about my journey training to run the Portland Marathon at 50 years old this October. This is the end of week 9 of my training plans, so I am about halfway done, which is fantastic. Those of you who've been following my training closely and are aware of the training plan that I'm following, the Hal Higdon intermediate plan, might be wondering why I'm not running a half marathon today. So the reason for that is just that I decided to switch up week 9 and week 14 in the training plans. So basically, at the end of week 14, which will be the first weekend in September, there is a local half marathon here that it's just perfect for my training. Like, it dovetails really nicely into my plan. I can literally walk to the starting line, and the race route is literally where I run all the time. So it's just perfect. And so I decided to basically run the week 14 weekend this weekend, and I'll just do the half marathon weekend in week 14. So today I'm actually doing my longer, slower run. I'm running 12 miles, so instead of the 13.1, and then tomorrow I'll be running 8 at a faster pace. That's the other thing I'm kind of mixing up today, is that I'm doing the longer, slower run on Saturday instead of Sunday. And the reason for that is just family obligations. So my grandmother is over 100 years old, and today is actually her birthday. And the family is doing a brunch get-together birthday celebration tomorrow morning. So there was just no way I was going to be able to fit in like a long, slow 12-mile run and still be at a brunch at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So I'm going to just do the longer run today and do my short run tomorrow and go to the brunch. I thought today I would give you all some sort of miscellaneous pieces of advice. So I've been looking through some of the other videos that I've done, and I've realized like there are just little tips that I forgot to give in some of the earlier videos. So I guess rather than going and like redoing stuff, I just thought I would give you all like a random collection of advice. So advice tip number 1 is about blister prevention. So I did a video on foot care while you're training for a marathon, and I realized I forgot this one tip. So this has to do with preventing blisters along the tips of your toes. So I know I gave advice to wear socks that are a synthetic, like a moisture wicking fiber, rather than wearing cotton socks, to help keep your feet drier and to keep blisters from forming. One additional tip to think about is specific to blisters across the tips of your toes. So if you have a good look at your socks, you'll see like stitching at the top, like across the line of your toes, right? So on the outside of the sock, like that line of stitching is really smooth, but if you turn the sock inside out, you'll see there's this little ridge of the stitching on the inside of the sock. And if you're out running for a really long time, that ridge of stitching can kind of rub on the tips of your toes. So runner tip number 1, turn your socks inside out. So go running with like the smooth side of your sock on the inside, so that ridge doesn't rub against your toes. Piece of advice number 2, I did a video on running solo versus running with a partner, with a group. And in that video, I gave a bunch of safety tips for running solo. And one that I forgot is one that you might not enjoy so much, but piece of advice number 2 is don't run with earbuds. So as a safety consideration, it's not always a good idea to kind of be oblivious to what's going on around you, and you need to be able to hear to not be oblivious to what's going on around you. And something else to think about if you're signing up for races, if you're training for races, some races don't actually allow you to wear earbuds. And again, it's a safety issue that, like, especially at the beginning of a race, you're running in kind of a pack of people, like you're pretty tightly grouped, and you know, if you can't hear what's behind you, and you kind of suddenly slow down, or you suddenly cut to your left or your right, like someone can run into you hard. And like I have seen this happen where people have taken like nasty falls, you know, earlier in the race because somebody just was not aware that someone else was behind them. Piece of advice number 3 is about runners' goals and marathon goals, which I talked about that in my first video, and I know I've talked about how good it can be to use goals to motivate yourself to be really disciplined about your running. And I totally believe that, but I have also mentioned that runners can be kind of type A and obsessive and just very, very focused on their goals to a degree that may not be healthy. And I guess my third piece of advice is kind of like remember that things are not always in your control. So I can't remember if I've told this story, so just indulge me for a moment if I have. But like, I know I've mentioned that my mom was a very dedicated and very serious marathoner. And in the city that I grew up in, she ran the local marathon 5 years in a row. So she finished 4 of those races, but there was 1 year that she didn't finish. So where I grew up, the local marathon, it's like the first or second weekend in May. So usually the weather is like pretty warm, it's sunny, but this 1 year it was snowing and it was really cold. And so around mile 19 or 20, the race staff noticed she was really struggling, and they actually pulled her out of the race because she was hypothermic, basically. And I've never seen my mom more upset than she was at being pulled out of that race. Yeah, like, she was angry, and because they didn't let her finish. And, on one hand, having trained for a marathon myself, like, I sort of get it. Like, I'm putting in all the kind of blood, sweat, and tears for months and months, and like, someone else is not going to let me finish. Like, but my point is that sometimes things happen that are not in your control, like snow. So I'm having to keep this in mind as I, go through my training, and I keep my goal in mind. Things may happen that get in the way of my goal, and you have to kind of be okay with that. So my race is the first weekend in October, and I ran this race in 2022, and the following year I ran the Portland Half Marathon, which is on the same day, and both times it was beautiful, it was sunny, it was perfect weather. But it is Portland, Oregon in October. Like, there is a chance that it's going to be just pouring rain that day, and if that happens, all the like blister prevention tips and tricks are probably not going to save my feet from being just a mess. And, maybe I can gut through that and still finish, but I'm probably not going to be able to finish in 4 hours if that's the case. But, that's my point. What are you going to do? You're just going to kind of have to go through. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this video turned out well. I guess I'll see when I get home. But thank you for watching. Feel free to leave me a comment and subscribe, and have a great day. And I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.